We're live, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Howdy.
We got a special guest tonight. Cameron Coble. That's right.
Coble.
Right?
It's Coble.
Coble. I asked you about your first name, but I thought I knew your last name.
You're not the first. I get that all the time.
Oh, jeez.
Nope. Totally fine.
We're just out of the Iowa Deer Classic, and every time you see, or every time the Iowa Deer Classic comes around, you get to see Facebook full of all these big giant deer that people killed in Iowa last year. And so we thought it'd be good, or Dan thought it would be. He's the one that kind of got in contact with you about getting you on and talking to you about some of the big giant bucks that you've scored over the years, and maybe some ones that you know about this year. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. You just, I guess, do a little rundown of. I've been a scorer for about 5 years, official score, and I've always been around it. But I had some other score buddies I knew that kind of encouraged me to go be an official scorer. So once I done that, it just kind of took off from there. Go to some deer shows, hang out at taxidermy studios, and you just get to see and hold some big deer. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You do some stories about some of those deer on North American Whitetail, don't you?
Do what?
You write some stories about some of the deer on North American Whitetail, don't
you? Yeah, a couple years ago, they reached out to me and asked if I do. They have a breaking news buck online series, because everything's nowadays, let's face it, it's through our phone or social media. And I do a little bit of writing through the print magazine still. You'll see a couple articles in there every now and then, but mainly the breaking news bucks online stories I'll write. And you got to contact the hunter and get the story. And some of the stories are pretty cool. Some of them are like, wow, you killed that buck that way. I mean, they're all different. They're definitely all different for sure. And then that sometimes leads to getting to score the deer. So it goes hand in hand. It's pretty fun. So I get to get my hand on some of them also.
When did you, or I guess, why did you start scoring? Like, what got you into it?
Gosh, I've been messing around with the scoring and numbers on deer probably. Gosh, this is gonna make me sound old. So I shot a nice buck back in 1991, and
that's when I was born.
There we go. So I don't know. Someone had said something about a record book, and I just was always curious how deer were scored. And I kind of learned on my own. I got an old Outdoor Life magazine back. There's this deer. I'm just a numbers guy and deer guy. I just know deer pretty well. Some of them I don't know. But there was a deer shot in Alberta back in that year, 91, by the guy by the name of Ed Koberstein. And they thought it was going to be the New World Record typical. And they had because I'd never seen a score sheet in my life. And they had it in the back of the Outdoor Life back when they'd done the pages that were like, they weren't color, and half the magazine was not color. It was just like regular paper in the back of it. And they had a score sheet in the back, and I tried to figure out how they scored deer. And I was, 12, 13 years old, trying to figure out what's this do, tip to tip, greatest spread, all that. I added that all into my first buck I killed. It's a nice buck, but he wasn't I think overscored him by about 30 inches. Because I thought that you got the tip to tip and the greatest spread and all that. Because it was on the score sheet, and I was like, man, I got a pretty nice one. I mean, he was a nice deer, still is, but he wasn't that nice. So I guess, and then just being around it and picking up my first North American whitetail that same year and reading all these stories in there, and they undoubtedly always had a number attached to the deer, and these world-class famous deer always had a number attached to them. Jordan buck, green buck, Hanson, all those. And it just kind of went from there. So I was just interested in the number side. It gave me a better perspective how big they were, I guess, with the numbers, and it just turned into a hobby from there, I guess, where I'm just always tinkering around with it. It seemed like, but that's how I got essentially I got into it and got into this scoring stuff, I guess you want to call it now, hobby. It almost seemed like a job some days.
Back in those days, it was pretty cool that North American Whitetail magazine was like the thing. I mean, it was like everybody would be waiting for that magazine to come out and see what new bucks were going to be talked about and what was on the cover. And like you talk about the Koberstein buck, all that stuff was like real big news every time that magazine would come out. Where now the stuff leaks out so fast that it's not even
one 100%. I tell the guys at these deer shows now, I said, I miss the days of waiting for the mail lady to come to drop the magazine off, and you'd go out there and get it, and you'd open it up. You'd be like, wow, look at this big deer, this big deer. And there's still a few that go under the radar that are still quiet. And I like that a lot more. Like I just, well, I knew about it back in November, the new Missouri state record typical archery. I knew about it. I knew about it in November. I just kept it quiet. And I talked to the guy on the phone. I'd done the story. And first thing I told him, I said, how'd you keep this quiet? And I said, I think that's more impressive almost than the deer. because nowadays, let's face it, the deer is killed. It's dead on the ground. Everybody knows the details of the deer. I mean, before you go to bed, it's all out. Within seconds, within minutes, it's out. Once send on the phone, it's over.
Do you still chase stories like for North American whitetail, like run and try to get there first and try to get the
break? It is pretty competitive, and nowadays with social media, it's really gotten where you just got to be the first guy to make contact with a hunter, and sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't, or they talk to somebody else, or they just don't want to do a story. So yeah, I try to keep tabs on what's shot all fall because it's kind of part of my writing deal. So I got to jump on them when I see them.
Mm-hmm. How far do you travel to find bucks?
No, I went to Kansas this spring. I would say spring, like in December, because I was out there anyway, and then I went back to score these deer, but the Kansas City area, and I'm only about 2.5 hours from Kansas City, so it wasn't terrible. And then when I went back home in Indiana on Christmas break, scored a couple of pretty nice deer, one real big one. But if I'm in the neighborhood, I guess I always tell people we can make it work scoring wise. Most of the time I got my scoring bag with me. If I don't, I carry a cloth tape measure. I actually put it in my pocket. People laugh. They say, they want to know what something measures. I said, hold on, I'll show you. And I always carry this. And they say, why? And I can get real close with that cloth tape measure, and I carry it shed hunt for mainly because if I find a big shed, my buddy's like, well, how big is it? I said, well, hold on, I'll tell you. I can get really close with that. Again, it's just the silly number thing, and it's not always about the numbers, but it's just, I guess it's come with it. But I can always measure it in some way, I think.
I like just picking it up and telling you what I think it scores because then I'm never disappointed.
Yep. Yep, for sure. That's the best way.
Yeah. Well, like there's a lot of people that kind of crap on scoring deer, but like for big deer, like it's kind of, it tells you how big they are most of the time, So
well, I know, and it's not always about the score. I mean, we've all killed deer that were probably better and more fun hunts than the score ever was, but it's just fun to know, and especially when you got a big giant in front of you or something shows up, and it's fun to know. It's really neat to know. And of course, you're gonna have the debate on gross versus net. And I tell people that's just how Boone & Crockett's system was developed back in 1950. I said they take deductions. Gross score is probably the fairest way. When you look at it on the wall and you see gross inches, that's what it is. But as a ranking system, it goes by net, typical or non-tip, and that's just the way it goes.
That's the one thing that always bothered me. Like you could take that, like perfect 175-inch typical and add 2-3-inch drop tines and you lose score.
Yes, it's heartbreaking. I know but we live in that era now, and Boone & Crockett even lists the gross score in their database now. They'll list the gross score, but the net is how they rank it. I mean, because you could never go back all them years and redo those and reorganize it all. It's just
right. You
got to put a line somewhere to differentiate between the net and gross and how to rank them. I guess what I mean. You got to have some type of baseline to rank them.
And maybe I'm wrong here, but trends change over the years. Like, and back in the day, they were trying to find the most beautiful, perfect deer, right? That's kind of where that came from, right? They weren't looking for a bunch of weird stuff. They wanted to see
it's based on symmetry, and that's just how they saw it, and then decided to, the short tine always gets credit on the typical frame. So it was based on the symmetry of the animal, or animal's rack, and it is still like that on every horned animal, or like an elk, mule deer, whitetail. They still have that typical frame. If it's a non-typical, they have 30 points. You still got to do the typical frame, net the typical frame, then throw in all the abnormals. And but that's how they saw that, and that's what they done. And like I said, there's no going back that many years to redo it.
You know, a lot of people like knock Boone and Crockett, and I think a lot of them think of it as like just a scoring book. But I mean, that's an organization that does a lot of things. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, they do these record keeping organizations with the numbers to show herd health, and they say a lot of that is based on this, what type of deer your area is producing as far as if it's a healthy herd. They do a lot of conservation, big conservation efforts. Boone and Crockett does, so it's just not always about, well, we're just going to put your name in a record book. It's they do a lot for habitat and for different organizations as well, like Whitetail Unlimited, Rocky Mountain Elk, all those organizations. You know, they tie that all in with that, and a lot of conservation efforts through those organizations.
I have a buddy here next county over that's a Pope and Young scorer, and a big reason he started doing is just like the camaraderie of it, or the networking part of it. Like he gets to meet a lot of people and people from everywhere. It's
a small world too. All the scorers pretty well know most everybody if they're active. Like I talked to a guy in Kentucky quite a bit, and a buddy back in Indiana quite a bit, and if we have questions on different amongst the scores, we'll ask questions, and just it's just kind of nerd talk, I guess, about antlers or numbers, and kind of neat doing that, I guess. And they score nice on, they'll show it to me, vice versa. And there's a lot of deer that I wouldn't say a lot. There's several that I've scored over the years that I couldn't put online or that I couldn't show people. And I wish they would. I wish they'd come to light, but the people weren't interested in that. So you still got those guys, but I try to encourage them, put them in the record book. But I say do it for the deer, do it for the animal. But sometimes people don't want to. So it's theirs. They can do what they want with it. But the more I score, I'll score a deer if I'm hanging out in archery or the taxidermy shop or archery shop. But if I'm going to travel someplace, I'm not going there unless they enter in the record book. I just think they should anyway. Do it for the deer.
So looking at the Boone and Crockett book, it looks like Wisconsin ranks as the top state for Boone and Crockett entries. Then it's Illinois, then it's Iowa, then it's Minnesota. Now that's counting all time. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, is that trend changing? Is like Iowa blowing up closer and closer and going to knock some of those states out?
You know what? I don't think that it's going to ever catch Wisconsin, just because there's so many hunters up there, and they're really active up there entering all their animals. Wisconsin does. It's a numbers game. I've sat and talked about this with buddies and people a lot. It's a big numbers game, but I have seen a big upswing in states like Indiana. And the reason why they got so good in the past, since 2002, 2003, is they went to $1 a year, and it just blew that state up. And I've told people and buddies talking to this here of recent, I said, I think every state should be a $1 state. I said, Indiana does everything wrong. They buy a tag over the counter. They hunt crossbows. You hunt high-powered rifle, peak the rut, and they still pump out Boone and Crockett deer. It's amazing, actually. I don't even know how they do it. Well, I'll tell you how they do it, because a $1 saves them. You can only kill $1 a year, so it saves them. So some deer have to get old because you can't shoot them. Whereas multi-buck states, well, you're going to go out and shoot another 150 or 160. The chance is there. The opportunity is there, is what I'm saying. But one and done, and well, the next buck he's going to make it. Next year's buck will have a better chance of making it with that $1 a year. Mm-hmm. But I think states like Indiana have really put themselves on the map because of the $1. And I wish Iowa was $1. I don't know how they do it every year. As a resident, if you own land and you're a resident, you can kill $3 in Iowa. And if you hunt city, you can kill 4. And I just don't know how they do it. Again, it's a numbers game. It's hunter numbers. It's how many. I mean, if you'd done this in like Ohio or Wisconsin, you could never do it because they got way more hunters. But I do like the $1 state idea a lot more. Kansas is a $1. Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and they do very well. And they do very, very well because of that $1. And I've noticed that over the past several years that that's the main reason they do so good.
It'd just be really hard to initiate that in places where they're used to multiple bucks.
And I thought the same thing too, and I don't know how they ever passed it in Indiana, because I remember the days hunting in Indiana where you could kill $2 a year, and they just came out one year and said we're going to go $1, and because people wanted older deer, they said they wanted more older deer, and that $1's all it took. That's all it took, and it just took off from there. When I was back home for Christmas break, I scored $3. My cousin killed a 183 gross. The kid down the road killed a 192, and another guy. I wrote a story for North American Whitetail on the Breaking News Bucks. It was 229.
Yeah, I remember that.
We never had deer like that. We might have had 180, maybe, but you never had deer like that. Especially not 20 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't know, but you just never had deer like that caliber and that consistency ever back there.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that it helped tremendously because those deer never existed like that before. 150 was a real good buck, and now they're killing 180s, 220s, whatever. Pretty special what that's done.
Is there any way to know which states are producing the record book bucks on public land versus private?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have wrote a few stories on deer that were killed off public and scored a few off public, but I guess the only way to know is if I don't know how you would. I guess you'd have to have all that information from Pope and Young or Boone and Crockett, and you'd have to really dig through it.
Is it listed in the records?
Excuse me?
Do they list that in the records?
I don't think they do. On the affidavit you sign and fill out, you do, but they don't put that information out there. I've scored several over 200 that came off public in Iowa. I got to score a big one in Illinois. The Illinois deer show's coming up. I got to go to Illinois tomorrow. And Friday I'm going to score a real big one. I'm supposed to anyway. And it came off public, and it'll be in North American Whitetail. I'm not writing the story, but I got to get all the info to the guy that's writing the story. So
are you?
It'll be a cool
the week after.
Excuse me.
Are you coming up to the Dells show?
I've never been. I might. I should. I've never been. And it's the week after, you said?
Yeah, it's a pretty good show.
I need to. I should. Then I'm not terribly far from it. I mean, it wouldn't be a just quick little drive up there. I think. I haven't been to Illinois or the Wisconsin show like since. Gosh, it's been almost 15 years. I went to now. This is the old one. I've never been to the one to Dells. Never have. Yeah.
No.
But
the Madison one.
Yeah. It was fun. It was a lot of fun back then, and but it's been years since I've been.
I actually think it's a nicer show now.
Is it really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I do 2 or 3 shows a year. It'd be fun to go to a show and not have to sit down and score it once in a while and just walk around and enjoy it. That Iowa show wears me out. We're there from Friday evening till Sunday, almost just nonstop. I mean, we scored 330 deer over the weekend up there 2 weeks ago, and it just go. And we were talking earlier about the everybody knows about all the deer now. You know, there's still some that go duck below the radar, because when I was up there scoring deer and I'd look up and see a big deer come in, I was like, and I used to try and keep track of big deer, what's shot around the country. And there was several deer that came through that I'd never seen or even heard about, and I was like, wow, it's pretty impressive. Some real good deer came through. I scored 2 or 3 that I'd never seen before until that show.
How many are legitimately scoring 200 inches in a state like Iowa in a year?
Gross or net?
Net, legitimately net.
Net 200s. Oh man, I would say killed a year in Iowa, 1.5 dozen. I would say probably that's probably. I'd say around there. Yeah, I don't think there's 20 net 200s, but gross is way different as far as there's probably 25 or so, 25 or 30 maybe gross, but net is just different. I mean, it's harder. It's harder for them to net over that. I know, and I keep track of just a little side thing I do. I keep track every 200 gross deer because everybody wants to know gross score, but I keep track of every gross deer that I score. And since I scored one in 2019, because I got it certified like in the fall of 19. So I scored one gross 200 then. But so since like January or since 2020 till now, I've scored, I think 64 that grossed over 200 out of Iowa. So, but I didn't net them all. I mean, I got the paper. Sometimes I dug back through them and could see what they net, but everybody wants to know gross. They'll tell me, oh, nets are for fishing. And I'm like, I know, but that's just how it works. If I had $1 every time I heard that, boy.
There's only been 4 people in the comment section say that. So
oh, I know. I hear it all the time. And a guy at the Iowa show a couple years ago told me he said it right, an old timer. He said when somebody, I said, what do you tell people? And they say nets are for fishing. He says I'll say it in a more polite way. He said, well, then go fishing.
Yeah,
he didn't quite say it that way, but I understand both ways. But yeah, so
yeah.
There's just a big difference between a net and a gross. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, I can't help it. That's just how it works. I mean, some deer are built to score, some aren't, and the inches add up on some, and they distribute it differently. And
so, any predictions on based on where the scoring has been happening, where the next world record will come from?
Boy, I can't count Kansas out. I like Kansas a lot. I scored 2 of them out of Kansas this year that both grossed over 250 bow kills. They both netted over 240.
Wow.
And they were killed 100 miles apart. People, when it's a funny story. I was out in Kansas City at Cabela's. I was just going to show up there and ask if I could score a big deer there. And the hunter, younger kid, he called him ahead of time. And they said, yeah, sure. They took us upstairs to a conference room, and I scored the deer right up there in the conference room. It was really cool. I mean, it's like laid out the red carpet for us, basically. Said, here you go. Brought a table in there for us and scored them right there. It was real cool. And I made a quick video in Cabela's that night, and you can't change people's mind. I mean, I put that reel or video on Facebook, and I bet you, man, I couldn't even count all the comments, but so many comments were saying those are pin deer, high fence deer, or why ain't they Boone and Crockett yet? And I said, I just scored them. It ain't like they go in there right now. I don't make the final call. It ain't like, okay, this is there. Let's put it in.
The deer that size panel scored?
Yeah, so both of those did go to Pope and Young panel. And I haven't heard nothing back. I assume my numbers were good, meaning if there's judgment calls on this or that, they might change something. But I guess if they go to panel and there isn't any difference in the score, they'll contact the hunter and the scorer, but I haven't heard nothing. So, and it's coming up like April the 9th. I'm curious to see if my number's held. I guess it'll give me see how accurate I am. I feel like I know what I'm doing most times. Of course, everybody's always got questions, on some odd stuff. You always do. You always have some questions, and you should, but
it's got to be kind of hard to go out hunting and shoot a 140 after.
Well, that's what I hang out at my buddy's taxidermy place up north of me here a little bit, and he gets a lot of big deer in, and I get to handle and see a lot of them and score a lot of big deer, and it's just my eyes just get desensitized from it because you see a 140, and it's just like, and no disrespect to shooting a 140 or 150. I mean, I do on public, and that's fine. The 150 is a great deer on public, but it's just like, I don't even want to push off the table. It just doesn't. It just takes. The more I do this, I guess, and I hope it doesn't get like that where it's bad. But the more I do this, it seems like it takes a heck of a deer to really impress me. I mean, a real big one, something special to really be like either a big huge frame or just something that's really. I mean, I've seen it held so many big ones, or even some of the big world class deer. I've held them or took them off the wall at these deer shows for like. Breaking or North American whitetails up there every year, and we they do stories in the back room there. They put up a big lighting thing that they bring in black curtain, and they'll do interviews with the hunters and these big bucks. It's kind of cool to take them off the wall. You really sense how big they are when you get them in your hands. If you've never scored them, but just have them in your hands, they're pretty impressive. But yeah, it's it makes you think, gosh, a 140. What am I doing? But you got to remember, though, there ain't that many of those big giants out there. That's why they're so rare. You really do. I mean, there's some, but they're not everywhere.
You had
I'm
your
really-
choice. Would it be a giant typical or a giant non-typical?
Without hesitation, the typical, because it is so much harder to get a giant typical. It is so much harder. They're so much more rare. I get that question often, it seems like, and people want the big, gnarly 30-point deer. And I say, give me a big giant 10 or a big 12, preferably a 10, something like the Jordan buck, but a big giant 10 would work great. That's my perfect deer. The nets over 190 typical is what I want. I scored one a couple years ago at my buddy's taxidermy shop, and it was big. He, funny story real quick. He texted me. I was up in Des Moines. He texted me one evening. It was like January 3rd or something. A guy brought a deer and couldn't find nobody to take his deer in. And Wade says, yeah, I'll take it, bring it over. And he had it in a big trash bag. I don't think the kid knew what he had. And he, I got a text from Wade, and he says, I think he said 24 inside spread, 30-inch beam, 15-inch G2. I said, I'll be down in the morning. He said, no hurry. That deer, I had my food in my hand when I walked in the shop that morning. It was over there. He'd already caped it out, and I looked over at it, and I just kept walking by. And in my head, I was like, "Oh my god, that didn't even look real. It didn't even seem real. So big." And it tied the state record for muzzleloader typical in Iowa. What's crazy? It was shot on the same day, 15 years later. Same score, same day, 15 years later. Both 10 points. Can't even make this stuff up. That one was pretty cool one though, but yeah, for sure, a big typical for sure is the to me is just the epitome of the pinnacle. Big typicals. I mean, I've scored deer that had 35 points before, big gnarly non-tips, and they're cool. They put out a big number because they got a lot of inches to add, but the big typical just takes so much more. Takes a lot more. Just they're cool. They're all cool, but if I had a choice, typical for sure.
It does feel like any year the world record is going to get broken, the typical world record. I mean, I don't know, the amount of, like you said, when you said that, a dozen and a half to 20 net 200s get killed in Iowa a year, I thought that was high. I was like, wow, that seems like a lot.
I could be low on the 12, at least a dozen net 200s, I think. On good years, some years are bad. People are telling me before I went to the Iowa show this year how bad it was in Iowa. I went to the show, and I was really surprised. I was pretty overwhelmed number of big deer up there, and it was a so year. I got all the papers from previous year's shows, like a master copy, whatever's brought in on the leaderboard, and it was pretty on par with other years. Now, there's been standout years before, but it was pretty on par. Maybe not some of the top end stuff wasn't there, but it was pretty solid, everything across the board. It wasn't, I've seen worse. I'll say that much. I've seen worse at that show.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen worse. But
the most impressive deer I've ever seen was I was in Canada for work and went to Cabela's, and there was like 151-inch 6-pointer they had mounted in there.
Mm.
And
was it in Canada?
It was up in Canada. I was in Canada. I think I was
trying to think. So it could have been the 6-point. Cabela's had it. I think it might be the same one, but they had one down there in Kansas. It was 150. 151 6-point. I would imagine it's the same one. It might be a replica. Yeah.
I saw that thing. I'm like, that is the coolest deer I've ever seen. Like it's
big. It's big. The deer with least amount of points or less points that score higher, awesome. Because it takes so much more. I mean, like big 8 points are incredible when they get those numbers like 170, 180. I mean, I've scored a few. I scored a deer. Came to the Iowa show this year. It was barely a 9-point that netted 173. Had a 2-inch G4 bow kill, and a guy shot a day after Thanksgiving, which I think is one of the best times to go hunting around there. It's really good, and it grossed to 184, a 9-point. It was big.
Yeah, this 6-pointer wasn't a 8 without brows. It was a
clean 6,
big. Yeah, clean 6.
That's impressive. No, it takes a heck of a. There's a few that have been up around those numbers before on a 6, but it just takes so much for a deer like that to get that type of number.
Yeah. The record 6 points at 155 and 4/8. It was shot in Wisconsin, Dan.
No, the record 6-point is out of Illinois. I wrote a story for it 2 years ago. Look up Eric Cox, who netted 158.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't score it, but a buddy of mine did, and it just missed Boone and Crockett 3-year award book. This is 6-point. I forget what it grossed. I think it grossed 160. You can, if you Google it, we're going to come up. I think Eric Cox is the guy's name.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
He shot it with a shotgun, right?
Yep. That's it. That's that thing. I have the score sheet on my phone, and the numbers are ridiculous. It's like 25 inches wide or something. It's ridiculous. It's big. I've never seen it in person, but my buddy scored it, and he sent me the info over, and I said, well, we can do a story if the guy wants to. He was kind of hesitant about it, and some people are, and wasn't a whole lot to the story, really, but got it done, and it was a heck of a deer. There's no official, quote, record, I should say, I get this all the time in Facebook messages. People like, what's the world record 7-point or world record 4-point? It's like, I don't know. There's nothing official. I know there's a 4-point out of Illinois years ago, and I got the picture on my phone, and I think it was just a clean 4 that netted 131, a 4-point.
Holy crap.
4-point. I'll text you the picture, Josh, later after I get off here. I got it on my phone, but it was in one of Tim Walmsley's old books, and I asked Tim Walmsley, he's an official scorer. I'll see him Friday. He wrote a book years ago, and it was in his book. But and that comes up often too. What's the biggest 4-point? I said 131 that I know of.
Yeah, there's one in Kentucky that was big, but I don't think that's the one you're talking about.
No. You'd have to go through my Facebook and dig through. There's so much stuff on there, you'd probably never find it. But yeah, I couldn't imagine seeing the numbers, what type of numbers that 131 would have to have. But the picture doesn't look real great, but it's 131 is what they said it went as a 4-point, which is pretty amazing. I've killed 10 points that size or smaller.
Oh yeah.
But I have, and I was happy.
Lots of 3-year-old 10-pointers that would go about that.
I killed a nice 10 points to me back in the year 2000. I thought it was great. It was my first nice buck to kill with a bow, and I thought that was just awesome.
Yeah. Is there any deer that we're going to hear about anytime soon that's kind of going to be
yes, watch North American whitetail. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. There is one. Just I can't say I can't. I'm not. I didn't write it. I didn't score it, but just watch.
All right.
I think it'll surprise you and everybody. Yep. I'm trying to think any others that are. But other than that one, no. Like I said, social media is the mystery factor is almost out of it now a lot with the power of social media because it can travel. I was like that. Oh, don't show this picture to nobody. Well, before you know it, it's online.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like click, it's over. Once you hit send, it's over. It is over. 100%. There's no reeling that line back in.
You think, what do you like? There's always these like rumors going around that the world record's hanging in some guy's basement that doesn't want to what do you think the odds of that being true are?
I've heard there's a 216 in Kansas, but man, I'm telling you, I think if it was legit, and maybe I'll be eating my words, but I think if it was legit, it would have came out by now. But on the flip side of that Sam Iupa buck, type in Sam Iupa out of Illinois. The shed club, I'm friends with those guys. They had the sheds for years, and that deer just came out last year, and I held that rack and everything at the Iowa show. They brought it. Dave Bolin scored it. It's number 3 typical at 207 and 7/8, 10-point, 6x5. I'm sorry, 6x5. So you don't. It goes as a 10-point though. That G5 gets kicked out. But
does that big drop tines on it?
That's a main beam. That's the main beam, and that deer. Yep, that's it. Hey, I'm telling you what. You hold that deer in your hands, and you know you got something. Haynes Shelton's holding it right there, and I held it at the deer show that year, and that thing is something special. Anyway, that guy shot that deer. He was a bird hunter. He just went out after he bird hunted that morning. He said, I'm going to go out and deer hunt. LaSalle County, Illinois, went out and hunting and shot the deer, shot it in the face. The deer was walking to him, shot it in the face. I can't make this up. And put it in his basement for years until one of his buddies or something, electrician or something, came by and saw it. That's it. Came by and saw it and asked if he could throw numbers on it, and it just went from there. But that's it. There've been sheds off of it for years.
So if that thing wouldn't have had that big drop time, would that have helped it a lot?
A lot.
Oh, North America White don't want me to subscribe.
They know they can hear you talking. Our phones can. Well, of course, it would have helped it a lot, because I think I was looking at that score sheet the other day of that deer, and it has abnormals. It has 9 inches total, so that drop time's probably like 6. So it would have. I'd have to run through the numbers and look at that, but it would definitely have helped. It definitely would have helped if that drop time wasn't there. And it's a 6x5, so you don't get that either. So it was like 10. It nets 207. It almost seems fake holding that thing. It's big time big. I mean, it's got 13-inch brow tines.
Yeah,
which is that's just unbelievable. It's a cool deer. Now that was a surprising when it came out of the guys, and that one literally did come out of a guy's basement. But are there all these big deer in people's attics and barns and basements? I don't know. Personally, I don't think so. And I always tell people if they are, we'll bring them out. Let's see them. And they just don't surface like that very often. There's probably some big ones, but not like that.
There's always that the people that'll say that there's like super elite hunters who just want to keep that a secret and keep it from everybody, and they've got a world record on their wall someplace, like hidden in the basement, and they're not going to show anybody. And it's like, number one, then what good is the buck if you're not going to show anybody? Because it's the pride of killing it, right?
Yeah.
And number two, that if it's actually a world record, it's worth $1 million.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm cashing it in. I'm taking the money.
Here's what is funny about all that. How do they know it's a world record? It's never been scored.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, they might say it is. They might have scored it, but most time people are pretty close to what I get. And again, I'm not the final say. If there's a judgment call on something, Boone and Crockett will say that when you send it all in. But I'll give you the official score I get, and very seldom does it change on racks unless they're big non-typicals or something just odd, a judgment call. But how do these people know they got records if they've never had anybody score it that knows what they're doing? Maybe they do. I don't know.
You do it yourself.
But every deer is a world record if you do it yourself. Absolutely.
I know how to score a deer. I'm not a Pope and Young score, but I kind of like you. I just kind of taught myself. I got a buddy that's, and my uncle has me he'll call me. He's like, "Hey, so and so wants you to score their deer for you. You care to come over and do that?" Dude, I hate doing it because I hate disappointing people. Like, I just most of the time when I go over there, they're what they think is a 160 or 150 is a 100-inch deer.
So. And again, it's not about the number. I only had maybe once or twice ever where a guy got real pissed that it wasn't what he thought. And other than that, everybody's been pretty cool, or they always got that in the pocket. Well, nets are for fishing. They've always got that. So
yeah, there you go.
And that's fine. I'm just so immune to it. I don't fight and argue with them about it. It is what it is. But a guy had a real quick story. A guy had a deer. He called me on a rainy day, and he's only like 10 miles away. I said, "Yeah, I'll come score your deer." And I got over there and scored it. And he told me, he says, "I know about what I got." And he says, "We got 185 on this deer." And I'm sitting there looking at this couple nice bucks on the wall. And this is when I first started scoring, and a couple years back. And he walks out with this deer, and I glance over and look at it. And I tell myself, "Please don't be that deer. Please don't be that deer." Because I knew when I seen it, it wasn't 185. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to tell this guy when I score it, because it's not 185. It was like 165. It's the best. I looked everything over, and I said, well, that's the best I can get on it, 165. I can net 157. And it was a crossbow anyway, which is fine if the guy needed to use a crossbow. But I remember asking him if he wanted to put it in Pope Young, and then he kept talking about wanting to put in the record book, but it didn't dawn on me that I was like, "Oh, you dummy, Cameron, it's a crossbow. You can't put it in Pope and Young." So he said, "Oh no," he's like, "No, I'm real disappointed." And he was disappointed in the score that it went from 165, it went 185 to 165. And it was a cool deer, had some big mass, some palmation on it, but I've been tickled with it. But that's probably the only one that really stands out. That the person wasn't real happy. I don't mind to break people's heart. If they want to know the real number, I'll give it to them. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's they're going to get a hold. They want to know the score. I mean, for the most part, they're pretty close, or they've never scored it at all before, or they just didn't know how to score a certain point or something. And I always tell people, scoring's not rocket science. If you can read a tape measure, you can score for the most part. Now, there is some stuff that you may have to take and think about or think over, but for the most part, it's not real difficult stuff.
Yeah.
You see any trends or anything with the stories people tell you about the deer they killed, and that influences your hunting?
Oh yeah, and I'm not. I don't know how to. I'm not going to say this to pick on people, but I would say a big majority of these deer anymore that I score write stories. And I could be wrong saying this, but I would say a big majority of them deer would probably still be alive or have a better chance of being alive if it wouldn't have been for cell cameras. I just don't think that they'd have had that upper hand without that cell cam. And it's such a game changer. It isn't even funny over a regular camera. And then you couple that in a state where you can bait, where it's legal, and oh my God, it's just like waiting on him to show up. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, look at Kentucky in that September, first weekend. Look at
them
come out of there. And
so predictable.
Oh man!
And you can watch it on your watch.
Mm-hmm.
When
you hit like a good cold front that first weekend and got them on food.
It's over. It's over for sure. That's one of the things I see with the deer stories, I guess, because a lot of them. Wouldn't say a lot, but several of them have been like that where, well, I had him on my cell cam. I knew he was in there, so I went in there and got him.
Yeah.
Where before I grew up, I'm glad I got stuck in that old school. I guess I'm stuck in the old school ways. I run cameras, and I got a couple cell cams, but not enough to corral an area to let me know what's there all the time, Mm-hmm. And I remember back in the day, you'd hear about a big deer, but it was kind of a mystery. Like, well, there's a big one around, but maybe he's close to where I'm at. Maybe he's not. And it was fun. It was fun to kind of daydream that, well, maybe he'll come by. And now now you're like, well, I know he's over here because I've had him on camera for the past week or past 3 or 4 days, and he's coming here.
What's changed by me, Cameron, is
that
a lot of these young guys now are running like 20 cameras, and the camera's a hunting spot. And the whole woods is full of cameras. And it's shifted from, I used to search for the spots everybody was overlooking and not hunting. You know what I mean? No cars, nobody's over there, and let them hunt the spots where they're crowding. And now I got to go to the spots that are crowded because that means they're getting something on camera. It really literally does.
No,
and I just got to
no,
find
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I was shed hunting this spring, and I went early on public because you have to, because they walk it every day. And I went in there and got lucky on this top half of this public. I picked up 5 sheds early. I do an early hunt every year. I went down and checked this other 2 spots where the DNR leaves food, and I kept walking out. And I was laughing. I was taking video of it and sending to my buddies. I was like, you got to be kidding me. There was maybe the person watching this will see it and be like, oh, it was me on the camera. But they had 8 cell cameras set up around these food plots. And in like a 10-acre spot, I'm like, there's got to be something big here, or they're just really bored and want pictures of deer. Or I couldn't believe it. I still can't. When I told people that 8 cell cameras. I was like, this is what it's become. And Iowa was talking about banning all cameras on public. I wish they would. It wouldn't bother me a bit. I'd still go hunting, and I'd be okay with it. I'd be totally okay with it. So, but yeah, the cell camera stuff has changed everything, and just made it way different, way different, for sure.
Sorry, I'm getting a horrible storm right now. So if I seem distracted,
you're fine.
I'm looking at the radar, making sure it doesn't. We got a tornado warning. So if I pop out of here because of my electricity goes out or something, just keep talking. You and Dan.
You're going to get our weather. My mom always texts me or calls, and they get our weather. Like tomorrow, they'll be getting this. This storm here will be in Indiana tomorrow. Well, maybe tonight. It sounds like it's She
Yeah,
texted me when I was coming on here. She texted me and said it's hailing in that part of Indiana, in northern part of Indiana right now. It's hailing. There you go. Yeah.
yeah, it's almost here.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy weather
right now. Yeah.
So, you do you score sheds as well?
Yeah, I just scored a real nice set on Sunday. So yeah, I do score sheds, and so the past couple of years at the Illinois show, I've been just scoring sheds, and man, when they kept bringing me in, it's overwhelming. I was the only one there scoring sheds. Some of the scores help out, and another guy helps out, but I was the only guy there scoring sheds. So this year, Dave Bullen's going, and he's scoring sheds, and I get to score some heads, and I also get to help out scoring sheds again. But damn Illinois boys kept bringing sheds in to the point I didn't want to score them no more. I like scoring sheds, but not when you got 60 or 80 of them on the table, and it's like a sweatshop. It was one after the other, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just overwhelmed by them. And but yeah, the sheds I do that too, but I like scoring heads better. I feel like the kill deer, but
I think I saw a clip of you holding up the Minnesota Monarch sheds a while back.
Yep.
Did, right?
Those things are crazy, ridiculous. I mean, you put videos like that up. Back to the Kansas bucks I scored this year. Everybody screams farm deer or high fence deer. I can't tell you how many comments on those Minnesota sheds. Farm deer, high fence deer. I mean, you'll never change people's mind on social media about that. You just can't do it. But those monarch sheds are unbelievable. I mean, you can't even believe, especially the part of the country they came out of, up there in northern Minnesota, St. Louis County.
Yeah, when was that? 20 years ago? That's a long time ago, right?
30 years ago.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
And I've been up there a few times over the years, and it's desolate country. I mean, there's no agriculture. I just can't believe a deer got that big up there. I mean, what are they eating, you'd think?
Yeah.
I mean,
and nobody ever shot that buck, if I remember correctly.
No.
So,
they used to eat out of the lady or the guy's bird feeder.
Yep.
Every winter it'd come. They have bad winters up there though, and they'd feed the deer or they'd have a bird feeder. I remember seeing pictures of it in North American whitetail at the bird feeder.
Yeah.
And
I think half the country went up there to hunt that thing.
Yeah.
And nobody ever killed it.
Those things.
Yeah.
That deer probably traveled miles. I mean, some deer are nomads. That deer could have traveled 10 miles for all they know. I mean, it's hard telling. I don't know, but I never heard anybody ever seen it hunting or getting a shot at it or anything.
Yeah, it just showed up at that bird feeder every year.
Yep. Late in the year, it just showed up at the bird feeder. I wish it was that easy to pick up big sheds like that, but it's so competitive now that, everybody runs cell cameras on their food and stuff for shed hunting. So they know when the deer falls, when they watch their cell cam, the antlers fall, they're out there looking right now.
Yep.
It's just
so how often do you run into like giant sheds like that you score that you never see the buck ever ended up getting killed?
Not a lot. I scored some big sheds over the years, but not a whole lot. I don't handle as many sheds.
Okay.
But I know two big sets that didn't come to the Iowa show for that reason, because the deer are still alive.
Yeah.
And the one set's real big. The other one's even bigger. But I just don't come across that a whole lot to know that, that deer got killed. There's the sheds. It seems like a lot of these big deer are just almost like a one and done type thing. They seen it maybe a few times that fall, had it on camera, then it's done. They never had a lot of history with it. Seems that way. Of some of the bigger ones I've scored, but not all of them, but some.
The reason I brought that up is like where I live, probably once every 4 or 5 years, something gigantic will show up and you chase it around for a while. And it just seems like, every now and then somebody kills one of those, but for the most part, they just eventually disappear and nobody ever kills them. They seem to get away more than they get shot.
It is pretty amazing that with all this technology we have, they still get away. And I always wonder what happens to those deer. Are they going downhill and you just don't recognize the deer? You would think that you would, but I always wonder what happens to them myself. I have seen though, my own just personal experience on camera on some public land deer. I've got the same deer 2 or 3 years in a row, which is, to me, is unbelievable on public because it gets pounded as hard as anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
But I can't. I never catch up with the deer, but I get pictures of them. It seems every year, but they're doing something going around there, something. So, but
people are asking. Well, a couple people mentioned the Mitch Rapala buck. If we want to
oh
get
boy,
into what your
I don't know if we even. I don't even know if we should get into that because what I'm going to say is they're probably going to hate me over it, but I guess we're here.
I probably feel the same way you do.
Well, I mean, heck, hey, we're already in the pool. Let's just jump in the deep end. I mean, might as well. So, here's a funny story. And like I said, I chased numbers around, this numbers geek with stuff. I shot a deer the same day that deer was killed. I know when he killed that deer. He shot it Friday, November 13th, 1998. He shot it on Friday the 13th. I almost think he shot it on that day just because it was catchy with the Friday the 13th. It sounds corny, I know, but the Friday the 13th buck, go back and look on the calendar. It was Friday the 13th. And long story short with that, I won't dive into it too deep, but if someone's offering me $10,000 to x-ray it and I don't care about score or world record, just give me the $10,000. I'll prove to you it's real and I'll walk away. And I'll walk away from it. That's all I had to do. And he said no, and that tells me all I need to know right there.
Right.
I mean, prove it to me. I mean, yeah. I guess we're at a stalemate because you can't prove it's real, you can't prove it's fake. So, I guess it kind of sucks that it's just a war of attrition. We're like pulling this rope. I mean,
the guy was hurting for money, and what that rack would be worth if it was a world record.
It would be worth a lot. And he was, what's kind of funny and ironic about it, he was all about records. When he lived in Missouri, he had every record under the sun when he was 9, 10, 12, 14 years old. You can go to YouTube and watch a video. He talks to a outdoor writer, I think Mike Avery or somebody, and he says, well, I had this record here when I was 12. I shot this record here when I was 14. When he gets to be a grown man, he don't want nothing to do with these records. He used to be a scorer for Boone and Crockett too. So he knew about numbers. He knew what it would take. I got a real good idea that he knew what he was doing. And he fooled a lot of people. Today's day and age, you could never do that. But back then, yeah, you could. Because you didn't have this technology. No one seemed to see this deer ever. No one had a shed off of it. Just dropped out of the sky and he killed it.
Just fair warning, the last time I talked about that, I said about the same thing you did, and I got a letter from his son.
Well, hey, if his son's watching this, bring it out. Let's run this again. Let's get it out there. I mean, $10,000 back then. Heck, there's probably somebody now would offer $100,000 to get it x-rayed.
I'm sure there is.
I was just talking to somebody about the Rapala. I mean, here's what I say about it. It's like Christmas. It comes every year without fail. The Rapala buck comes up every year. Let's post on social media, and you'll get people that fight and scream over it. And I'm just like, I try not to say anything because it's such old news that you're never gonna. It's unsolved mysteries. It's an unsolved mystery.
Right.
And that's all it is. But that's my take on it. That I don't believe it because of those reasons. I just don't. But if it is, I'll eat my words. But I don't think it is. So, yeah, I figured I was thinking about that. I was going to text you today and ask you what the topics were going to be, but I thought I bet you the Rapala comes up. There's without a doubt it's coming up. There's this won't go. Yeah, it will come up.
Yeah, everybody's talking about the Johnny King buck too.
I knew that was coming too, and I really can't comment and say a whole lot about that. And I can't. Here's all I can say is Boone and Crockett rules. That's what they deemed it as, and that's how it panned out for the deer. Mm-hmm. It's just unfortunate, but that's just how it worked out. And that's about all I'll say about the King buck. I mean, I really can't even. We're not even supposed to talk about it, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and if I would anyway, it'd just be a big argument too. It'd be as bad as argument, maybe worse than the Rapala. But the Rapala is kind of fun to talk about because it's almost like a fictional character.
It's like Bigfoot.
It's the Loch Ness
real. I
monster.
can't prove it's not real.
You know, Bigfoot just vanished off the face of the earth when trail cameras came out.
Yeah.
He was gone. But man, they used to get a lot of pictures of him back in the day before trail cameras. People would take pictures of him
Right.
half mile away. So I don't know. It's something. It's always something that's the fun side of scoring and stories and all that. And I keep a phone with things like that because it's not always about the number, but it comes with it too though. But the stories are just as good, if not better. They're with it, but yeah, it's going back to what state you think will produce the records. Because everybody will think about that. I like Kansas a lot. Kansas has got what it takes. They got $1 a year. They got a late gun. Ohio, I'd never count them out. I wouldn't count Indiana out. I don't think I'd ever count them out. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth growing up there and living there my whole life, but they're kind of a dark horse. And then Illinois. I mean, Illinois still produces big bucks. They're not like they used to be.
But that almost did it.
I mean, any of these states can kick out one of these freaks, but consistency top end deer, the cream rises to the top, like Ohio, Kansas, Iowa. Those states consistently do it. But there's more of them that are consistently do it these days too. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 that are real good, that are all in that same. You can go there, and it wouldn't surprise me if they came out of any of those states. The way people are passing deer and letting them get some age on them and taking care of them better. It's just there's more and more there's big deer every year are killed, and it's hard to keep track of all of them. My buddies tell me, they're like, "Oh, Cameron, you know all the big deer." I said, "I don't know them all. I know a bunch of them and know some numbers on them, but I said it's hard to keep track of all of them every year. I mean, because there's just more and more of them that get killed."
Yeah. Indiana, it's not even in the top 5 for Boone and Crockett though, and I think it's just because of our
but
seasons.
Regulations change and it's on the rise. It's like other places are going down. Like when I asked Cam before about Iowa surpassing Wisconsin, in the back of my mind, I was thinking about our regulations and how we're killing way too many deer now, and we've changed our numbers in our the way we're hunting, and it's getting harder to find big deer.
Absolutely. I think Iowa's probably on the decline a little bit. I look at those numbers a lot. Just on the yearly numbers, Indiana has produced more Boone and Crockett deer than Iowa on the typical side. I look those numbers up on deck and get in the database and all that and look through the subscription, all that being a score. And they produce more Boone and Crockett deer than Iowa, which surprised me, but it did, but it didn't. Just because that's how strong that $1 a year is. I wish every state was $1. I live 35 miles from Missouri, and you killed $2 down there. If they left everything how it is, because they would be irate if you moved their gun out of the rut. But if you just gave them $1 a year, and I don't know if they'd ever do that. If they could kill $1 a year, that state would really blow up. Mm-hmm. And I asked him about it. I asked a guy about it. I think just a DNR officer one time. He said if they didn't kill that many deer, there'd be too many deer in Missouri. But that's why they do it a lot. This population control, they got to shoot that many. Like you'll hear people complain about. In every state, people complain about the gun hunters. I said, you have to have them for a population control aspect of it. You have to have gun hunters. You don't, there'll be way too many deer.
Yeah.
But they hate the gun hunters. I used to be a gun hunter. I'm not against that. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. If you want to shoot deer with a gun, go for it. But you got to have them.
I think it's a fact that if hunters don't kill the deer they want killed, then someone else is going to,
Well, I hear that often.
Yeah.
Neighbor killed my deer. Quote my deer.
Yeah. No, I just meant like, we're either going to give farmers more permits or we're going to.
Yeah. Well, they'll find a way. They'll find a way to knock them down. Illinois, what hurt them? The insurance company pulls the rank over there. A couple of big insurance companies are over there. And they pulled rank basically and opened up crossbows, and which isn't a bad thing. Because Ohio and Indiana, and Kentucky are crossbow, but they almost freely give tags out now. Just kill them all, kill all the deer, and that's what hurt Illinois. Illinois used to be cream of the crop. you'd ask me this same question back 1995, 96, I'd say Illinois without a doubt. It wasn't even close. There wasn't even a state could even hang with Illinois. You could put two or three states together and couldn't hang with Illinois. That's how good it was.
A lot of that Western Illinois that was really good back in those days you're talking about.
Yep.
You go down there's very large parcels of land you could lease, and in the earlier 90s, earlier than you're talking, you could actually go and just get permission.
Yep.
And then it went to leasing, and then the area was dirt poor, and then it went to like breaking those properties up, putting way too many people on them.
Yep.
And it just got to the point where they were way over hunting that whole area.
Absolutely. And it's a $2 state. And that's what I said. That's the beauty of a $1. I always go back to that because I had a diagram or something I pulled off Facebook a month or two ago and I sent it to people, or maybe I made a post about it. You took like a 400-acre section that only one or two guys could hunt in a $2 state where they're going to kill, potentially they can kill $4. But if you break that up and put 4 guys on there, $2 a year, they can kill $8. It just compounds. It keeps compounding. Every time you break that section up and you put more guys on there, they're going to have more potential to kill more bucks. And that's what happens when you break those up. Yep. Whereas if you only had the $1 guy can only kill $1, it would be still a lower number. The number that you could kill would be lower.
Even in the management system, they just start killing the deer as soon as they reach the age class.
Yeah.
Before they excel up into something really great.
Yeah. Now it's Wisconsin. How many bucks can you kill in Wisconsin?
One with a gun, one with the bow, as far as bucks are concerned.
Yep. That's what it used to be. I think Indiana, back in the day, I think if you shot 2 with the bow, then you couldn't gun hunt. Then because I remember the one year I'd shot a nice buck in the year 2000, and the next day, I shot the buck the night before gun. The next day, I went hunting, I had a gun in my hand. It was kind of weird because I'm sitting back there hunting, and I had a gun in my hand. But so I know it was $2 back then, obviously, but I think you could split it up if you kill 2 early and be done, or 1 and 1 and then be done. But I really like that the $1 thing because it saves so many deer. Oklahoma's pushing hard to try and get it to be a $1 state, and they should. I mean, I don't know how you would ever convince some of these states, because once you give something to people, it's hard to take it back from them.
That's the problem. Michigan, the whole thing is the age class, because there's so many hunters, and they all get 2 buck tags, and they can take them both with a bow, or both with a gun, or one with the bow, one with the gun.
Yep. And when you got that many hunters, you've got to do something. And Ohio's got a ton of hunters. I got some good friends over there, but the $1 saves them because you can only kill 1. I mean, there's like 400,000, I think, crossbow / compound hunters over there. It's something crazy. The amount of hunters over there, and they're killing these big bucks off 5, 10, 20 acre parcels. But you can do it. It works for them. That whole system works for them because that goes back to that $1. But if you told them they kill $2 a year or whatever, boy, it would decimate that state. It just would absolutely decimate it. But I've said this, the way technology is getting. I told my buddies, I said, I'm going to coin this term. I said, and I'll put it on Facebook one of these days. I said, if you're going to increase technology, you have to decrease opportunity. And that's what I've told people. It makes sense. They said, what do you mean by that? I said, you've got to decrease the opportunity that they can shoot these deer with, the amount of deer they can shoot them with, if you increase technology. Because everybody's doing it now with these long-range muzzleloaders, cell cameras, box blinds. So much technology in this now. It's almost like in areas like that, they don't get away. It's so much easier to get them. And that's how I feel about that, as far as they just they don't get that age that they need. Because of that, technology is not letting them get big anymore in certain areas, I feel like.
But we kill more big deer now than we ever have, right? And it's still year after year, we could keep killing them, right?
Because of the $1.
Well, just in general, throughout the country, big bucks get killed every year.
They do, but I think some areas are kind of fading off because you can kill too many of them. I do. They just don't. They don't let enough of them get through. They just don't.
About hunter attitude, though, too. I mean, if you go back to when I was a kid, you never passed a buck. Any buck.
Yeah. No.
And when I did, I can remember my dad getting mad at me. He's like, "That was food."
Oh yeah.
And that started to change, where people would hold out for good bucks. It would be like 2-year-olds, And now I think people are holding out for better bucks, but still, even if everybody's holding out for better bucks, a 120-inch buck looks pretty damn good if you got 2 tags and you got another one you can hold out for the giant on.
Absolutely. That was my point. I was debating that with some guys about a month ago here in Iowa. They said, well, I think a $2 tag or $2 state's great. And I said, why? Tell me why. I said, a $1 state, I've never seen a $1 state fail. I have seen multi-buck states fail. They said, what do you mean? I said, well, here's my point. You go out and shoot a 140 or 150. Well, now you go out and hunt another one because you got one under your belt. Now you go out and try to get another. You've got the opportunity to get another one, and I guarantee you they'll take it. If the opportunity's there, they're going to take it. I told him, I said, if you give a dog a bone, he'll chew on it, and that's exactly what will happen. So a one buck makes you think, well, I'm going to shoot this deer, and then I'm done for the year. Where, guess what? With $2 I can shoot this, and I'm going to go hunt another one, and that's what happens. It's exactly what happens. You've always got a backup buck to go after.
That's like a DNR warden told me that once. He said, "No, Dan, you're wrong because when I look at the stats, most people, 95% still only shoot one deer." I'm like, yeah, but they wouldn't have shot that deer if they had one tag.
There you go. Absolutely. I hear the same thing. It's about like the nets are proficient thing. Well, I know guys only shoot one buck. Well, but if the chance is there, you're going to take it. I mean, that's how it works. I've never shot $2 in a year in whatever state I lived in. Never have. I felt okay with shooting one, and that was it. And I had opportunity to go hunt and keep hunting. And I was just like, oh, that's good enough. And but one in the grand scheme of thing.
But Dan, how many memories would you have missed out on gun season if you couldn't shoot another buck?
Yeah, that's true. But I stopped gun hunting and nothing against gun hunting. I think I stopped gun hunting in the year 2000. So it's been 25 years since I've shot a deer with a gun. And I've thought about, and a lot of guys here in Iowa do it. Late muzzleloader is a big thing out here, and they kill some big ones coming to the food plots late in the year, get snow or cold weather. And I've thought about it over the years to buying a muzzleloader tag and going muzzleloader hunt. I've never killed a deer with a muzzleloader, so I think it'd be cool to do it once, but just never have done it.
Yeah.
But I'm a close range guy. I think the furthest I've ever killed a deer was with my compound. It was like 52 yards. And the furthest with gun was 50, and that's it. I've never killed a deer I know in the 60, 70, 80, 100 yards ever. I just never have.
I was still shotgun only, right?
Nope. They went to that. They're opening that door with straight wall now, and the problem is, and like I said, people now like me what I say on this. Problem is, everybody wants it easier now, so they're straight wall rifle cartridges now, and they're opening that door where one day it'll be high power rifles out here probably. The door's creaked open, so all they can do is keep putting their foot in it, and they'll push it through one day. I hate to say it, but
well, I remember when Indiana went to the straight wall thing, and they had some like sizing rules of your bullet and your cartridge, and then people just made the 358 Huger or whatever.
Yeah,
it was. And it was a high power rifle, and you just bought that thing. It was expensive, but you had a high power rifle then. Kind of.
I thought for sure when Indiana went to a fully high-powered rifle, it was the death of them. I said, it's over. I said, they'll kill some big bucks for a year or two. And I said, after that, I said, it's over. But believe it or not, like I said, they've got it going right now pretty good. The only knock I could give Indiana is if they took that gun out of the rut, it'd be even better. And it's good now. But take that gun out of the rut and it'd be even better. And the two states that do that a good job of that, $1 a year gun out of the rut's Kansas and Ohio. And you can see how good it works there. And it does. It works very well.
If I understand it correct, and somebody in the comments can let me know if I'm wrong, but Michigan now, you can use any rifle during muzzleloader season.
Yeah.
Really? Run up my begin, you can use any rifle?
Yeah, it's muzzleloader season, but you're allowed to use any rifle.
Why even call it muzzleloader season then? Here's what I call it. Even in Iowa and Indiana too. And again, I like what I say. When I say this, all this muzzleloader season is a single shot high powered rifle season because that muzzleloaders now that they build shoot 400 yards without even an effort. You put them in a vise or a bog pog or whatever. 400 yards is a chip shot. with those $10,000 guns that guys are buying. I'm like, of course, I'd never buy one, but
I remember when I was young, the old timers bitching about inline muzzle loaders. This is going to kill everything. They're going to kill all the deer. It's too easy.
I remember the neighbor guy years ago, and I thought it was the baddest thing ever. And again, I'd never kill a deer with a muzzleloader, but he's always in the techie stuff, kind of. He's older than my dad a little bit, and he bought it was back when the Knight, it was a Knight MK85. You remember that muzzleloader?
Mm-hmm.
The MK85. And when he told us how far he could shoot it, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And I think it was like 150 yards or something. I was like, oh my God. You told somebody that now, they'd laugh at you.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't believe what the muzzleloaders now shoot, though. What people tell me, I'm like, I just laugh now when they tell me.
Your $200 CVA from Walmart shoots that far now. I mean,
I always thought if I'm going to go muzzleloader hunting, I'm going to buy a muzzleloader, and I don't know if they make them, but I don't know where I'd find one at a pawn shop. I want to get an old flintlock where you put the powder on the pan, and I want to shoot a deer. I want an old flintlock Kentucky long rifle, like they wanted 7 foot long. And
yeah, Pennsylvania has a season, flintlock season.
Who does?
Pennsylvania.
That's pretty cool. No, that's neat. Mm-hmm. That is neat. And I know states like Colorado or some of those states you can't even put a scope in your muzzleloader, which that's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm glad they're making it a challenge again. I mean, if a deer comes in the field with a muzzleloader nowadays, if you can shoot halfway good, it's dead. You can see him, you can shoot at him. Pretty much. That old saying, if you can see, shoot. Well, it's about coming true now.
Yeah. I mean, in Southern Indiana here, you don't, I mean, you know, the hill country, you don't have much shots over that anyway. I mean,
really. That's why I was surprised at the high-powered rifles they opened there. And I said, someone's going to get killed or something with high-powered rifles there, but there's not been any hunting accidents or anything because of rifles that I've even, wasn't nothing no different than shotguns.
Yeah. You know, when they opened up rifles here, what worried me was at the same time they opened up rifles from shotguns where I live, when they changed it, at the same time, they gave people tags to shoot anything, multiple tags with the CWD crap. And I'm like, now you can shoot anything that moves and you using a rifle, you know. And I thought somebody get shot over it, but it actually, you know, people were safer than I thought they'd be.
Yeah.
Dude, any weapon you have to be talented to shoot over 200 yards at something. I mean, that's just a long way.
I scored a deer at the Iowa show. I looked down at the sheet. And I won't say the name, not because it doesn't really matter. I scored a big buck out of Northeast Iowa. During youth season, you can use any weapon. The way I understand it in Iowa. So the dad and the kid family came back there do the paperwork, put the deer in Boone and Crockett. Heck of a buck, gross like 190s, net 175. And they were telling me the story a little bit of it. But anyway, I looked out the sheet and it says age of hunter when deer was killed. And it said 10 years old.
Yeah.
And so a 10-year-old, they told me, his dad told me his son shot that deer. He said 357. I thought that's the gun they used. No, that's how far he shot it with a rifle. Back in October. That's what I thought. Like, oh my God.
That's a good shot for a kid. That's
what I thought. I mean, I'm so kind of oblivious to this because I can't believe they shoot them that far, but they can pretty effectively, I guess, if you're a good shot. Mm-hmm. But it's similar with bows too. I mean, people say at 50 yards a chip shot, you still got to be a good shot. And I wouldn't shoot a deer at 50. Well, I'd take it back. I shot a doe that year at 50 yards with a bow. I was shooting a lot that year and felt pretty good, but I can count on one hand how many deer I've shot over 40 with a bow. I mean, even the bows now are, what'd you say, Dan?
I can't hit them at 20.
Well, hey, the 2 years ago, I kept shooting arrows and kept missing deer, and I just thought, I can't shoot a deer anymore. I missed a 160 on public at 40 yards, gave me a great shot. Like 4 days later, I missed a 150 at 10 yards, shot under him at 10 yards. And I just said, I can't do this. It totally deflated me. I mean, I was on deer, probably the best year of my life on nice deer, and I couldn't hit them. Just totally deflated. I remember climbing out my deer stand and going out to look at my arrow at the one at 10 yards. And I just fell back in the grass and laid there, looked up at the sky. I was like, this can't be happening. And I'm out here in the yard in the summertime shooting 70, 80. If I go out to the road, it's 98 yards, and I can hit the target at 98. But you think you put a pressure situation deer in front of me? Nope. get rattled or something. And I bow hunted 30 some years, shot some okay bucks and shot some out to 40 yards. Well, the does at 40 some bucks out in the 30, 38 yards, maybe the longest buck shot. But I couldn't handle the pressure that season, that's for sure.
We still can't use rifles on public land in Indiana.
You can't? Oh, that's right. I forgot about it. You would think it'd be excellent in hunting. I forgot about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I bought a 350 Legend last year instead of I had a Savage bolt slug gun, but dude, slugs are expensive now.
I don't even know anybody shoots a slug gun anymore out here or in Indiana. My dad does, but my dad shoots a gun from 1972 though, shotgun. I mean, it's so old. It's got a full length, full choke, 30-inch barrel. I mean, he'd always tell me that growing up as a kid. He'd say it's a 30-inch barrel, full choke, and we didn't know what that meant, but it's like old, like Winchester, probably collector's item type gun. He still hunts with it.
My grandpa.
I'm not a big turkey hunter, but we were turkey hunting together a couple years ago in Indiana, and I'm not even a turkey hunter at all, but I called some turkeys in for him, and he was army crawling out to him, and he pulled up to shoot, and his gun goes click, and he pumped the gun, kicked the shell out, pulled up again, click. 3 times in a row that happened, and the turkeys wouldn't leave, and then I was like, what are you doing? Why ain't you shooting? Well, his gun wouldn't fire. That old Winchester. The only time it wouldn't shoot was the time turkeys came in, and they were dead, but his gun wouldn't work.
I got tired of looking for shells. So I just bought a 350 Legend. You can buy a pack of 25 for $30 or whatever it is.
I can't believe, and people have told me like 20 gauges or 12 gauges, they shoot pretty far now too, I guess. They tell me.
Yeah, I think if you get the right combo.
Yeah.
But not like a straight wall cartridge though. Still,
how far can you shoot with like that 350 or 400? Will they shoot pretty easy 200 yards?
Yeah, 200 yards is about it.
Crazy.
But in the hills down here, it's all you need. I mean, you can't further than that.
Yeah,
not even close, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of some open spots around here, but if you want to shoot further, you could definitely. You definitely could. But there's also some big timber areas where I guess if you wanted to shoot, you could, but you have to see them. It'd be hard. You couldn't see them, just too thick of brush and timber. But I didn't know that about the no rifles on public in Indiana. That is pretty cool. I guess I didn't know that.
There's a proposal out to make it legal, open it up this year, but it hasn't passed yet or anything.
But I know in Kansas, they banned all trail cameras on public, which I think that's great. I love it. That's totally fine with me because what the problem is now, and I guess it ain't their fault. The kids grew up now hunting. They just, and I'll say it, they ain't got no woodsmanship. They just rely on that camera so much. Ain't no deer on it. I ain't going to hunt. I got buddies that will tell me laying in bed, nothing's by my camera. I'm not even going hunting today.
Oh, yeah.
I hear it, and I'm like, yeah, ain't nothing big in there. I'm not going hunting. I'm just the opposite most times. I mean, late in the year, it's kind of harder to get motivated, but you just never know. I just grew up with that mystery of there's a big deer around, maybe he'll come by me thing. You just always hoped he would come by you. You heard of the legend, but you didn't know where he's at. Now you do. Now you do.
Well, we can all still have that experience. We just got to not use the cameras,
That's right.
That's the.
Like I said, it wouldn't bother me a bit, and I don't even know if you can use. Last year they had talked about it in Iowa, but I don't even know what the ruling is this year. I guess you can still use them. I'll look into it before season, of course, but they put it on the table or something where they just kind of stalled it for now because, excuse me, where they hadn't made a final ruling on it yet, but wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't be down in a piece of public and have 8 cell cameras looking at me while I'm looking for sheds or scouting.
Yeah. There was a bunch of states last year that had that law proposed. I think Kentucky did too. And I know Iowa for sure there. And we had Chad Sylvester from Exodus on here, and he said the amount of cameras that got sold from, 2022 to now is it's millions more than it was the previous years before that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'd imagine so.
He was telling me that there's water holes in some of the western states and stuff where people would set up trail cameras on these man-made water holes because it's the only water the animals have, and there'd be 150 different people's trail cameras surrounding one little water tank.
Oh my God!
And these guys would be selling the pictures online, the timestamps and stuff to hunters.
Yeah.
And that's why they started outlawing. That's what started it.
I heard something along that line. They said they were just disrupting the animal's natural, or the water.
There's always somebody checking a camera or something, or setting one.
Yeah, I mean the animal. That's the only water around for miles. You got to do something, or they're going to die. They're never going to be there when the persons are obviously checking the camera. I mean, they got to watch. They got to be real careful when they come get water if they were. But I remember it stemmed from that. I thought Utah started it, or one of those states out there had started that.
It did. Utah was it.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I don't. It's a different animal, different setting, of course. I mean, there's more water in these other states, but like I said.
Even a meet in the middle kind of thing, since they're so ingrained into some people now. You'd have such a brick wall to fight to get it banned, but maybe some sort of meet in the middle, like their license, and you can only have so many, and you have to have a name and stuff on it. And,
So, is it Wisconsin? Is it Wisconsin, Dan, where you have to put your name on a stand if you leave it out there?
Yes and no. It's only on certain types of properties, and most of them even have a standout. But you do have to have your name and address, or your name, or your DNR ID number on any trail cameras.
Yeah, I thought it was something along that line with stands, and I knew they were doing. I thought they were doing it with cameras too, which that wouldn't be a bad thing either. I would be for that, and that'd be fine. But I'm surprised they don't charge people just to make more money to put cameras out there. You got to have a license. That's coming next. Watch.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to buy a license to put cameras out.
That Teddy from the Hunting Public just put a video out that he got fined for hunting without a license for filming a guy hunting.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't know you couldn't do that.
Hunting license in the state of Mississippi to film somebody hunting.
Oh.
And, he was filming. He was cameraman for a guy, and he didn't know about the law, and he didn't read. He read the rules, but he missed the little section, and it says only non-residents have to follow that rule.
Jeez, wow!
It's getting to the point where you need a lawyer to go hunt in another state.
Well, I laugh about it and joke to people, but I said I'm surprised they don't have you. Like I said, having a license to, obviously there for the cameraman, but have a license to put cameras out there, have a license to shed hunt, have a license to mushroom hunt, have a license to go scouting.
Yep.
I mean, it's getting that way where it's just, it wouldn't surprise me if one of those doesn't stick in the future, where they push that. It's about making more money. And I think
we had some buddies here. Indiana's like Mississippi. We had some buddies down a couple weekends ago. They were deer scouting, and one of them brought some thermal imaging for coyote hunting, And I called my game warden. I'm like, so if we all want to just go out and watch him do this, like, do they all have to have a license? Because they're all from out of state. And he's like, yeah, every single person that is involved in the pursuit of game has to have a license on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, even if they're not going to shoot, they just want to look, like they just want to watch how it works. And he's like, yeah, if I pull you over, I would have to write all them tickets. Like,
oh my God. I wasn't aware of that.
Coyotes. That was coyote hunting. That was just on private land. I mean, we were just going on private.
The laws in Wisconsin with participating in a hunt, they could, if they wanted to, fine you for helping some guy pull his deer out of the woods.
I got a comment. I put a video about this today on my channel, and someone commented his dad got a ticket for helping a buddy drag out a deer.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
So you could have like your old neighbor say, hey, I need a hand pulling this deer out. No, I'll go have a heart attack, or otherwise I'll get fined.
Gosh.
I know any way they can.
I know in Iowa, I don't know if it's like in your guys' state, but in Iowa, you can't even move the deer until you put the tag on the antlers. You're not even supposed to do nothing. And I've seen so many people post pictures on Trophy Bucks Iowa or their own page. I don't think Trophy Bucks Iowa post it unless there's a tag on there. I don't know, but I know I've seen them post just on these pages, and they've gotten in trouble down the road because they didn't have. It's the hunter's responsibility ultimately, but they've gotten in trouble because they moved the deer or took a picture with the deer without a tag, and it's like, Yeah, you don't even want to touch the deer until your first move. I don't care if it's a world records. Get that tag out of your billfold or wherever and put it on the deer.
Yeah, we went from in Wisconsin. You have to tag a deer immediately upon its death. You can't even look at it, leave, and go get help, or you have to tag it immediately before you do anything.
Yeah.
To the next year, you don't even have to tag it. You can put it in your truck without a tag. You don't have to, call it in until you're home. It's so extremely different. It's like
the first year I ever hunted Kansas back in 2003, I shot a pretty nice buck, and you could do whatever with it, just like you said. And I was just so like dumbfounded with that. I said, where you check it in at? And they looked at me like, what do you mean check it in? And you just do what you want. We chopped it up, butchered it, caped it out, and that was the end of it. I don't think you had to. I don't think you had to check it in. I don't know. Maybe I called something. It's been years ago, of course, but it was so foreign to me that's how they done that. Just drive out there, shoot a deer, and drive home. Because back to the check-in thing, I miss those days where people check deer, and those were fun times. In Indiana, I used to check deer. In Illinois, I worked at a check station, hung out there. Those are gone, never come back. Check stations. You see what people bring in throughout the day. Those are a lot of fun to hang out at. I don't know if they had them. They ever have those in Wisconsin, Dan?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I used to like those. That was fun back in the day when check stations.
Yep.
You used to like to sit there after you get your deer and just watch everybody else bringing them in.
Yep. I've got, this is how old I am, I guess, telling about the camera. I'd carry a camera with me everywhere. Before a phone, I had a camera with me. I have to buy the film canister camera or film, and for like. So 2001, 2002, I was over at its archer shop / check station, Illinois, opening day of gun, just hanging out there because I didn't gun hunt. And it's cool just watching the big bucks roll in there and taking pictures. I've got a whole tote full old 35 millimeter camera pictures just from over the years at deer shows and check station. It was real cool though. And back in the day, ever before scoring, back in the day, everybody would weigh their deer in Indiana. They have big buck contests for weight. Some of them would. So you'd field dress your deer and they'd go by weight, and out here nobody even weighs the deer. And that's how times have changed, I guess. That was cool to know what your deer weighed but nobody does that. Nobody does that anymore. They would age them now before they would weigh them. And they would. I mean,
you also have the board where people would they take pictures of all the deer that they checked in, pin them up there. You can look and see what people killed. And
the old Polaroid picture days, those were even before that. Usually the check station had old Polaroid camera. They would charge the person $2 for a picture or something. They'd go through a lot of film, and you're checking that a lot of deer like that. And one picture would stay at the shop, one would go with the hunter. Yeah. I've got one. I checked in a buck back in the day. I have a Polaroid of 2 of them like that. Those are the fun days. But I wish everybody could experience those days because they're never coming back.
No.
That's for sure.
That's Facebook now.
Oh yeah. Well, social media reigns supreme, and smartphones have just changed society. Not only deer hunting, they've just changed every aspect. I mean, I was talking to a buddy about that today. I said, "There's no place, public or private, there's no place safe anymore because you have a smartphone and on X. There's no place safe. You can sit at home and look and say, I'm going to hunt right there, and you can drive there and go hunting." Mm-hmm. And that's how it works. You don't have to. The leg work. What's leg work? Let's just drop a pin and go there and hunt.
Yeah. Oh heck, even out west, you can just pay. You can pay a company to tell you where to go. Now, I mean, there's services. There's services now.
It's almost got to the point. I say this is jokingly. It's almost got to the point where you can almost hire somebody to pull your. Do you want me to pull the trigger for you, shoot the deer for you?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I get messages like from random people, just like, "Hey, can you give me some pins for this area of this state?" And it's like, no, go hunt.
Yeah, I'm similar in ways. I mean, I put a lot of stuff on social media, but I don't put everything. You don't need to tell everybody everything, Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm kind of paranoid about how I take pictures. I don't want the background, but somebody be able to ID that. I mean, it might take them some work, but somebody may have been there. Somebody may have seen it, But
it's amazing the amount of work some people put in to figure out exactly where I shoot a deer when I shoot one on film.
I can imagine.
Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. The last place I shot, like 3 years ago when I shot a big buck in the marsh. It was like this spot that was all forgot about. Nobody'd been in there. You should see it now. There's like a beat trail to the spot that the tree is like almost dead from all the sticks that have gone up it.
Is that the one you shot pretty low off the ground in that marsh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
The one I had to get the dog for.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Where the tree was. Yeah.
I was telling a buddy about that today, just about hunting and shed hunting. I said it gets harder every year, and I feel like I just got to keep ahead of people. That's the hard part about hunting. Like spots I got used, they change. Some spots never change, but a lot of them do. A lot of them do. You just got to leave them, and it's a one season thing and done, or got to move on, or find somewhere else new to check out. But
you know, I got a passion for moving around, so I really love to figure things out. I don't like taking the easy route where you're going back to the same tree all the time. You know, the lucky tree or whatever.
The lucky tree, but that's my dad. That's my dad's mentality. He said, if you set in the same spot, sooner or later that buck's going to come by. I said, no, they won't, because I know you're there.
Right.
We argue that all the time. And he's always been had the mindset of just going back to the same spot.
You know, we like to think that all these tactics and stuff work, but you know, every now and then you see something that proves you wrong.
Yep.
There's one hunt I'll never forget where we walked out to go gun hunting, me and some guys, and we're going to go still hunt through this little patch of marsh where we knew where the bedding was, where 3 guys could get through there just right with the wind. And we pull up, and there's this guy who parked his truck at like the parking area, walked in about 50 feet, and he's sitting on a bucket with his gun. And it's just an open grass area. And I'm like, oh my God, look at this guy. This guy, what does he think he's going to hunt? And then the 3 of us go walking down in that marsh and kick up this big buck, and it goes through us, runs right to that guy, and he shoots it. So he's the one that had the tactic that day, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there always is things like that you just shake your head at, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just, I see, you know, I see stuff like that. Some people's stands. I was out in Kansas years ago another time, and this guy shot a real nice buck, and I went down there to hunt this ground, but he's going to put me in after he shot this buck on the edge of this big hedgerow. And he pointed out a stand that he shot the buck from. It was like a high 60s type deer, 10-point heck of a buck. And he pointed out his ladder stand. He said, I shot that buck right there. And I was like, you shot it right there? And I think I could have stood on the ground and reached up and touched the platform, and it was wide open. It was like putting the platform on a telephone pole. It was that open. And he shot the buck at 10 yards. I said, there's no way you killed that buck out of there. He's like, yeah, I did. I just couldn't believe it. And here I'm out there trying hard. He shot that buck right there. Just still doesn't make any sense to me. But it works like that sometimes, unfortunately. But good for him. It was a heck of a buck.
Oh, guys, we've been on here for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I see that. I've seen the little live time. I was looking like
pretty fast.
It gets away from you. You start talking. I mean, it's easily can do it pretty easy. But
Elizabeth gifted 5 Hunting Beast memberships today.
Thanks,
too.
Elizabeth.
Go scoop them up.
Yeah, Dan, I'll try to get up there to that Dell show. It's a week after Illinois, you said?
It's the week after next, so it's not this weekend. It's next weekend.
Okay, I'll try and I might try and run up there too. That'd be pretty neat to check out. Like I said, it's been years since I've been up there. Might be a day trip, but it's been a long time since I've been up there. Are you going to be speaking up there or anything?
No.
No.
I'm just going to hang out like by the Beast, the Hunting Beast gear booth and by Stealth Outdoors booth.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be busy in Illinois for Thursday. I got to go over there and help them set up tomorrow afternoon, and then be done there till Sunday tear down. That's the part of the show people don't see, like the Iowa show. I didn't get out of there till on Sunday till 8:30 at night, taking all those walls down that the deer hang on, and I do it. You know, they take care of us pretty good, so it's fun. It's part of it, you know. But that's the part people don't see. They're walking around in the 9, 10 o'clock morning drinking beer all day at that show. It's a madhouse that Iowa show is.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
I like that show.
It's a good atmosphere. I told people you could take away all the deer and it would still be a fun show just because the atmosphere and how they have it laid out. Yeah. It really is. It's one of the best in the country still, I believe, and it's put together right, and it's just a good atmosphere. It's a fun time. It's a fun weekend. Brings a lot of people in. So, but yep, that's what I'll be getting up. I got to get up in the morning and swing by a buddy's archer shop in southeast Iowa and score some deer there that I didn't get to score at the Iowa show. I felt bad I didn't get him scored for me. I had him in his booth. I said, I'll swing down by there on the way to Peoria and score him for you. So couple bucks there to score for him. But I'll have some stuff posted on Facebook from the Illinois show, whatever shows up there. And it's just fun. Like people like to see big racks or unique stuff, so I guess that's why I do it. Just a hobby it turned into, I suppose. But
yeah.
So anybody wants to follow you or anything, what do they do?
Facebook. It's just my name on Facebook. I had started tinkering around with that professional platform on Facebook, and I went back to the other one because I don't understand it yet. You know, you can switch it over to professional or digital creator, and I need to watch some YouTube videos to get more educated on that. Instagram, I think it's Cam170, but I usually put the same content on there. Cam170 Instagram, and just my name on Facebook. And I don't know that I'm not necessarily trying to grow, but I get followers, and it's cool. You know, you get people reach out to you, or social media world's kind of weird. You just the people that send me pictures and what's this deer score, or how old's this deer, or how do I score this deer? And it's for the most part, it's fun, enjoyable. But from like August until like now, my phone I almost need a receptionist because I get questions after questions and questions. Come score this deer. What's this deer score? How do you score this? And it's turned into something. It's crazy just from scoring some goofy deer antlers.
Yeah. I linked your Facebook page in the description.
All right, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to stay and talk with you guys. So
yeah,
but
yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you bet. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Later.